in 1950, Dean and I did the first telethon out of WNEW New York. That was the flagship. The flagship meaning they also had stations in New Jersey and Connecticut. And as we grew over the next few years, which was 50 to about 53, I think, that Dean helped me do it. Then we were on hiatus from 53 to about 57. And in the interim, Dean and I had split up. And then I was doing the telethon local New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut from 57, 58, 59. Then in 1960, I started to travel to get stations, because we were on 3 stations, New York and 2, whatever that was. By 1960, I was already getting 70 stations, 90 stations, 61, 62. I'm into 104 stations. 66, we went national. I had taken those years to put everybody in place and then finally get them to go with us when we went national. So we were the first telethon to ever go in color, the first telethon to go coast to coast. And by the time we went into 1970, I had 213 stations. We moved the telethon in 1973 to Las Vegas for the first time. And this last year was my 50th year. It's hard to believe that I've been doing it for 50 years. But the thing that is so magnificent is that the television medium helped me generate $1.7 billion in these last 38 years, because 12 years I didn't raise $200,000. Everyone and anyone that's ever been in show business has been on the telethon. Labor Day has, remember, Labor Day, which now is a positive faction, was thrown to us. Here, take Labor Day. When we had Theater Authority and we had the FCC and we had everyone involved in what are they going to do and how. And I had to get permission from the government so that I wasn't raising money that was going against whatever their INF. I mean, you know, I had a 50-week-a-year workload getting everything straightened out. They threw us a bone with Labor Day, which then became such a force that everyone wanted Labor Day, including the NFL, and including the tennis championships, and including everything else. And we're locked in Labor Day. So it became a wonderful, wonderful, perfect time. It was a perfect time. Hey, this last year I raised $54.5 million from pledges, from phone calls. And then another 60 million from our national sponsors. So to do 115 million on a Sunday is not bad, except that it takes a long time to get that on. And God willing, again, because of television, we're going to find the cure. We're into DNA now. We're into genetic engineering, which is certain to give us information. And now I'm being told by the clinicians and the researchers and the lab people, you're going to see the cure in your lifetime. I mean, it's incredible. Jack Benny came on and destroyed the audience he walked on, I had introduced him, and he walked on and he looked right in the camera and he thought for a minute. He looked in the camera again, he looked around, and he said, I don't guarantee that I'm going to make a pledge. And we were destroyed. Everybody was hysterical. And he leaned on that for about another minute of just staring. I'll never forget what that man did with one thought. Cheapest man in the world is not going to make a pledge. You know? The Ritz brothers came on and did the act that they did in vaudeville 40 years before. And it was spectacular. Robert Goulet came on drunk. And I had the best 20 minutes of television with Goulet. He was my foil. I never let him up. Well, you saw that spot, Sam. It was hysterical. I had the 120 Russian Bolshoi Ballet. 120 coming right at the center camera, one at a time. And about after 103, I was in it. And I did my thing, and it was hysterical. I mean, it's so difficult to remember. Well, I'll tell you one thing that I could never ever forget. Mary Pasalakwa. Mary Pasalakwa was a victim of neuromuscular disease. And I went to the hospital to see her in San Francisco, hoping that she would be better. And she was skeleton-like. She was dying so badly. And we funded a thing called plasmapheresis, which flushes the bad blood out and puts new blood in. And she had been given the last rites when I arrived there. When I arrived there, she was the epitome of what hero worship is, because she saw me and she practically came alive. And then I left. I said goodbye. I never thought I'd see her again. And then I get a letter from her 2 months later. Thanks so much for visiting me. It made the difference. I'm doing well. I'm fine. And P.S., my dream is to one day dance with you. I read the letter on television in front of 80 million people. And then I pointed to the curtain, and there she came. She walked out, and she and I danced dead center of that stage. There wasn't a dry eye in the house. She's alive and well because of our funding the plasmapheresis syndrome. And that's probably one of the most unforgettable things, because I was trembling so, trying to dance and be cool. It was so important to her and to everyone else that was a victim. It was a special moment for people in trouble. The other great moment that's pretty close emotionally was when Frank decided to bring Dean on and have us embrace and stop the 20 years of silence, because it was 20 years we hadn't talked. And Frank worked it out. He worked it out so that everyone in that studio, every member of my staff knew Dean was coming on. I'm sorry, everyone in my staff, nobody knew Dean was coming on. The only one that knew it was Ed McMahon, okay? So I could never have heard about it. It was such a total surprise. And when you look at the footage and you see the look on my face and the look on his face, you see two men that love one another. It was an incredible moment. It was great television. September 4th, 1976. In 1950, I had the occasion to go to Chicago to visit the clinic. And in the clinic was a 12-year-old little boy who was suffering from spinal atrophy, a neuromuscular disease of the spine. It was terrible. And they had operated on him and put a shunt in his spine so he could sit up. And when he saw me, he said, I got to tell you something. I love what you do. And I think I was in New York and I saw your telethon, which was like for 2 hours. He said, and I just love what you do. And you know, you should have a theme song. 12 years old. I said, what do you mean a theme song? Like Gilligan's Island? No. You should have a song for all of us kids, your kids. I said, a song like what? He said, You'll Never Walk Alone. And it was like I was hit between the eyes with a bullet. What? Of course, I know that lyric. I know where he's coming from. But he was a very bright 12-year-old little boy, speaking for all of the kids that were in trouble. And I dedicated it to him on Telethon 50. And I've done it for 50 years. Well, Jerry's Kids came from the fact that most health agencies are generic. Help cystic fibrosis. Please help us with cerebral palsy. Please do something for those in trouble with sickle cell anemia and so on. And I didn't want what we were doing to be genetic, and I couldn't talk genetically. And I one night on the air, I said, I think you people have to know what I feel for my kids and what I feel for them. And I went on and I was doing a pitch hoping to raise funds. And when I was through, Ed said, You got to remember what he said about Jerry's kids. I had said my kids. He put it into Jerry's kids, and it clicked. I will do the telethon until I get it done, or get as close to possible, finishing it. The sad thing is that if we got the cure tomorrow, we'd have to first do a telethon to support that, to support what we had to do. And it's a lifetime. If I knew in 1948 that I would be spending 50% of my life doing this thing and the other 50 my work, I don't know if I had any. I had no options. I had to do what I did, and I'm not unhappy about it. I'll tell you this, for a television performer, in whether it's a yearly role or a brief role, like 24 hours, everywhere I go, in every airport in this country, I will get a minimum of 6 to 10 people that will thank me for the work I do for the kids. And I mean, you know, the demographics of fan clubs over the years has told us that there's 876 letters every time you get one. The equivalent of 876 people that would have written a letter for the one letter you get. Well, Dean and I were getting 30 to 50,000 letters a month. But when you get 6 or 10 people in an airport, there's a lot of people that might have stopped you to say that. I have a lot of people tell me, geez, we think you're so funny and you made us laugh all of our lives. We've grown up with you. And the minute we saw you on television, you were the... But when the people say this about the work that's being done for children, it's wonderful. It's very meaningful.